Hey guys, the Dude's Corner here. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to advance on F2L. Now first off, let me just remind you that this is not a beginner's tutorial, because that's why the title says Advance on F2L. So if you were looking for a beginner's tutorial, link will be down in the description. So be sure to go check that out if you don't know how to use F2L. Now, let me also real quick say that this F2L tutorial is not quite exactly what you might be expecting for an advanced F2L. And there is a reason for that. I believe that there are different levels in how one learns F2L. So I would call this as more as phases, I guess is a better term. So I like to call phase 1, of course, beginners, and then phase 2, which is more moderate, and then phase 3, which is advanced, and there's 4 or 5, but I won't get into those for this video. But this video is going to be basically phase 2 and how to advance on F2L. It's not advanced phase, just like advance off of. So advance off of like beginner's version and become more of a better F2L solver. I believe that this is going to actually help you quite a bit more than you may realize, but this is not quite the tutorial that you're going to be expecting. So if you're having trouble, trust me, this is going to take a lot of practice. So let's go ahead and start off by scrambling this cube and then solving cross. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with using what I used in my beginner's tutorial is by demonstrating only using this edge right here and this corner. So the blue, red edge and blue, red corner. And of course the white on the corner as well. But that's going to be the pieces that I'm going to always be using for demonstrating for this entire tutorial. Now, unlike my beginner's tutorial, just remember that there is always 2 ways of inserting into the right and then inserting into the left. And there is, like this beginner's tutorial, this is considered as still a pair and you would still insert, same way. But something else that I'm now going to mention is this is the first part for learning how to advance off of the beginner's method, and that is by looking at this case right here. So we have this corner and this edge right here. This case is actually considered as a pair because the last example that I showed you, it only took 3 moves to insert from this part into here. And that would be just doing R, U prime, R prime. But in this case, this is going to follow up in a very similar fashion because this is also now considered as paired. For instance, all we need to do is 3 moves again, and that would be doing R to pair them, U, and then R prime. So the only difference between these two for algorithms is going to be the U move. But let me just real quick remind you, like I mentioned in the beginner's tutorial, try to avoid as many algorithms as possible. It's better to just solve this on your own by looking at the pieces. Now time for actually starting to advance. This is, in my opinion, where I think a lot of people for F2L do not follow up on, and a lot of people say their own opinions on this, but I think all F2L starters, after learning beginners, having a basic idea of F2L, should really learn how to solve each case, but they need to learn how to solve each case on their own. I think tutorials really don't emphasize this enough, and I think each case beginners should figure out their way of doing it on their own and solving it intuitively. So kind of like cross. Now I know you all who watch this video probably already at least know how to solve cross. And cross, there are so many cases that there are, and you'll admit that there's no way I could teach every single cross case. It's ridiculous. And here's the thing, F2L follows up in that same fashion, and there's a lot of reasons why. And the most obvious one is the fact that there's 167 different cases. I won't explain how there is that many right now in this video, but it even goes one step further. Then there's of looking for next pair, already presetting pairs, and way more advancing stuff that I really do believe that for advancing on F2L, everyone should know at least their own basic way of doing it and solving it intuitively, and then figuring out their own way of learning how to solve it. So, does that mean all those advanced tutorials out there are completely useless for learning how to advance on F2L? No, I don't think that they are. then you're probably now asking, okay, then why in the world did you just shoot down your own argument? I believe that those can help guide you for after this step, and start with more like phase 3 for how to actually advance on F2L. But this is what I believe is the first process before going into that phase. I know this may sound like a far bit of a stretch for explaining this, but keep following and it'll be able to help you out. So I think the first perfect example for me to explain this is by solving this case right here, this corner and edge. Now what you want to look for is any way to find a way to pair the two in either of the two examples I showed you, whether or not that breaks up your cross edge. I think that this is the best way for anyone to learn intuitively, so let me show you an example with using this case. So, like this case, the edge, if it was here instead of here, it would be considered paired because we would only need to do the 3 move case as I showed you before. So what we can do is try finding a way to set this edge up into that spot to get it here. Kind of how we had it in the last example. But now, of course, we could just move the edge, but that moves the corner. So what we could do is move this corner away. Now, there are a few ways that we can do this. One example would be by turning the right side down and then turning the top so that this corner is out of the way and then this edge is where its place needs to be. And this does not affect any of our cross edges or the corner. And when we turn the right side up, this corner and edge are then paired. Another way of doing this in a similar fashion would be to turn this front side so that the corner is out of the way. So bring the corner down, turn the top, and then bring the front back so that then these two are also paired. Now that is just one example of many, and I will get into explaining how to do more in just a second, but there's a lot of other factors involved in this, so just keep that in mind. But just a reminder, I really do believe if you could learn the principles of how the edges and corners interact with each other when always holding yellow on top, I believe you'll be able to learn how to solve a lot of these cases on your own, and then maybe push to learning more advanced and learning how to solve each case in a more better manner. So whatever way to solve the edge in the corner. So for instance, let's do this example here. So this is close to being solved, except the edge is flipped. Now, this is obviously going to require a little bit of a different way of doing it. So what we want to do is let's hold it in this position, I would say, and we want to bring this corner out of the way. So there are two different ways, from pairing, and I believe the regular beginner's way is not going to be the best way, and I think the way that I taught you a minute ago by having the corner and edge in this spot here and doing the 3 move is going to be the best option. So let's start by bringing this corner out of the way, and there's 2 ways of doing this. You could hold in this position and turn the front, or you could just hold in this position and turn the left side. This brings the cross edge out, but don't worry about that. And then we can turn the edge into the back here, so twice, because if we do it once, that's really not going to help us. But if we do it twice, and then bring this back, you can see we have these as considered as paired. Then we just do the 3 moves. And then, of course, another example would be this case right here. And we want to separate this corner and edge, obviously. And there are a few ways of doing this. Now, we could take this side down like this or something. And then we could turn the top and then bring the front back and then solve it like this case or something. But that's not really going to be very effective. So another way of doing it is by bringing this side up. So to bring these like this pushes the edge back, and now only the corner is affected by the top, and we can move the top so the corner's out of the way, and then bring this side back down, and then this is considered as paired. Another example is pretty similar, is like something like this, except instead how we would do this is by bringing the top toward the back so that this corner is affected by the right side. We can bring this down, turn the top, bring this back, and then these are paired. And then it's inserted. Now, let me just also say that in a lot of these cases, there are so many that you can use, and I think the best way for you to learn is by only using 2 sides for turning until you get them in a paired state. Now, this would either be by using the right side and the top side, or by using the left side and the top side. So this does depend on which case, because like for instance, this one you can't really do very well by using the right side, but you could do it by using the left side better. So just keep that in mind. Also, one other factor you need to keep in mind, and this is very important. Now, I demonstrated how to solve this case a second ago, and if we were to do it the exact same way, so like this takes this pair out. If this happens, just go ahead and try. If you can, just reinsert it. But if you find a way of pairing that breaks them, probably don't use that version of solving. So for instance, this case right here, we have this corner and this edge. You might think to do the example that I showed you before by bringing the right side down and then turning the top back, but this takes this pair out. So if this pair is already solved, you might want to not use this example, as this is going to separate these pieces. So instead, what you can do is turn the right side, bring the top back, and then solve this kind of like the beginner's way. So just for future reference, if all of your other ones are solved, it might be best for you to use the beginner's way for just solving your last pair if you get in a situation that you really don't, like having to solve, or the case is just not good. Just it might be smarter for you to use the beginner's way that I teach in my beginner's tutorial for if all three of these are solved. So be careful with making sure you don't take one of your other pairs out when turning different sides. Now, there are a lot of other examples that I could do and demonstrate outside of these nuns being broken. And once again, if you have to learn how to figure out ways of solving with these being solved, learn intuitively. I really do believe that's the best way for anyone to learn. So let me do another example of something completely outside of the ones using just the R and U moves when the bar is on top. Let's say we have this block already, like this pair already paired, and it's in the wrong slot. A good way of solving this would be, most people would say, take the bar out and then just go ahead and reinsert like that. But that isn't necessarily going to be the best way. Another way of doing this would be by getting this side up to insert the pair immediately, because this pair inserts like this, as we can see. So then if we can go ahead and find a way to insert this, turn this edge up first, without affecting this pair, we can insert it a lot easier. So, for instance, we could move this side down, turn the front so that this is now unaffecting this pair, and then turn this side twice to get this into it being paired. And then we could turn this cross edge to fix it and then have it paired, but this takes this cross edge out. So turn this side first, then turn this side, just like that. Another completely different example is, say, if we have this edge already solved in here. There's a few different ways in which we could solve this, and one of the most common ones that you could always use is by taking the edge out like this, having the corner here, because if you have it in this position, these are already paired just with this cross edge out. So you would bring the cross edge back down and then insert. But there's also another way we could do this, and that would be by putting this edge, this corner right here, underneath the slot, and then turning the middle like this, and then inserting the corner into the bottom so that the corner is here. And when we slice back, because we never affected this edge, it pairs them just like that. Now, there are so many more cases that I could go through, and I will be making more advanced tutorials on F2L and for more specific cases in the future. These are just some examples of best ways for solving them intuitively. Now, once again, this isn't necessarily the best way for each case, but this is an example for learning how to solve each case intuitively. Learn these on your own. If you learn how to do these on your own, you'll be able to understand them better because you are the one that taught yourself the way for doing them, and you're the one that is going to be able to teach yourself the best way for each case if you learn how to do it on your own. So figure out each way that you think is best. As much work as it may require, it's easier on my part for the tutorial side of things and on you for learning, because there are so many different cases and each one can be solved intuitively no matter what. So try figuring it out, avoid using algorithms, and just memorize which piece is going where and figuring out the best way of solving it. And then memorize those ways so that you don't have to therefore worry about solving intuitively when speed solving. So that's everything for this video. I know this is probably not exactly what you were expecting for an advanced F2L tutorial, but like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, this isn't quite the same as like a normal advancing tutorial. So, but anyway, outside of that, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to hit that like button down below and hit the subscribe button as well as those bell notifications to be notified when upcoming videos are released. So, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.